Hey everybody, Nick Espinosa, your chief security fanatic here. Don't forget to subscribe. But today, I actually want to talk about the U.S. Department of Treasury. There's a lot of noise out there and a lot of posts on how the U.S. Treasury Department has had a data breach by virtue of essentially the Department of Government Efficiency, aka Elon Musk. Now, we're going to get into the nuts and bolts and the facts on the ground of that, but I actually want to discuss, is this an actual data breach? And for the record, this is not political. If you're a longtime listener or follower of mine, you've probably heard me say this phrase a million times, but cybersecurity is agnostic to politics, but we're not immune from it. And I want to basically talk about the facts as we know them and analyze exactly what a data breach is in the eyes of the government in terms of the law. And so with that, it doesn't matter who's president. If this had happened on another president's watch, I'd be doing the exact same video. But there are multiple sources on this, and I'm cribbing from PBS here, who had a pretty concise write-up. And with that, let's talk about this, because the Department of Government Efficiency, aka DOGE, which is run by President Trump's advisor, Elon Musk, aka Tesla founder, aka SpaceX founder, aka Boring Company founder, etc. DOGE, aka Elon Musk, has gained access to sensitive Treasury data, including Social Security and Medicare customer payment systems, according to two people familiar with the situation. Now, this move by DOGE, essentially, and if you don't know, they are the task force assigned essentially to find ways to fire federal workers, cut programs, and slash federal regulations. In other words, increase efficiency through removing things for the most part. This essentially means that they have potentially very wide leeway to access important taxpayer data, among other things, aka our personal information. So, the New York Times first reported the news of this group's access to this federal payment system, which obviously is massive. And the two people who spoke to the Associated Press on the condition of anonymity essentially was the ones that were starting to clue people in. Now, the highest ranking Democrat on the Senate Finance Committee, Ron Wyden of Oregon, if you, again, are a longtime listener, Senator Wyden has been on the forefront of data privacy. He sent a letter to President Trump's Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent, basically expressing concern that, quote, officials associated with Musk may have intended to access these payment systems to illegally withhold payments to any number of programs. To put it bluntly, these payment systems simply cannot fail, and any politically motivated meddling in them risks severe damage to our country and the economy, end quote. Again, that is Senator Ron Wyden, Democrat of Oregon. I'll let you take that for what it's worth. And again, not being political, this is literally what is happening. So this news also comes after the Treasury's acting Deputy Secretary, David Liebrecht, resigned from his position, basically in the wake of this. He had been there for more than 30 years. Now, the Washington Post this past Friday also reported that Liebrecht resigned his position after Mr. Musk and DOGE basically requested access to sensitive Treasury data. In other words, in protest, he simply resigned. At least that's what it looks like, or that's what it appears to be, not putting words in Mr. Liebrecht's mouth. Now, Elon Musk on Saturday responded to a post on his social media platform X, formerly Twitter, about the departure of Liebrecht, and I quote the tweet or post by Elon Musk. The payment at Doge team discovered, among other things, that payment approval officers at Treasury were instructed always to approve payments, even to known fraudulent or terrorist groups. They literally never denied a payment in their entire career, not even once, end quote. And again, that is from Elon Musk, head of DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency. He, for the record, did not provide proof of this claim, but nevertheless, here we are. So that is the backdrop for essentially what is happening. But I want to give my thoughts on this because, again, I've seen over and over and over, this is a data breach, this is a data breach, this is a data breach. And so let's talk about this, because vetting and due diligence has to be performed and validated on anybody via background checks, for certification of the person before they can access sensitive information from the government. And a payment system that would have, let's say, everybody's social security number in it, sensitive taxpayer information, etc., there should be a vetting process that allows them to be in. Now, by all accounts, this hasn't been done per President Trump's orders. Now, if you didn't know, President Trump issued a memorandum on January 20th, the day he was inaugurated, entitled Memorandum to Resolve the Backlog of Security Clearances for Executive Office of the President Personnel. Now, there are two critical points in the memorandum that basically are related to clearance, and those are point number one, and I quote, the White House counsel to provide the White House Security Office and Acting Chief Security Officer with a list of personnel that are hereby immediately granted interim top secret / sensitive compartmented information TS/SCI security clearances for a period not to exceed 6 months. And 2, these individuals shall be immediately granted access to the facilities and technology necessary to perform the duties of the office to which they have been hired. End quote. So, to be clear, this is what we're talking about. They don't need to be vetted and background checked for at least 6 months because there's a backlog, and if the FBI is going to get to that, which is a whole other thing, because there were some firings at the FBI as well, we could potentially be running with people here, and I do not know one way or the other, that could have access to a very sensitive system at the Treasury Department, but have not actually gone through those background checks or have been vetted to basically have that kind of information. Now, top secret and sensitive compartmented information basically may not necessarily rise to what the Treasury Department is doing, but nevertheless, top officials go through background checks. And if we are suspending those just in the name of getting stuff done, for the government, it's very possible that Elon Musk may not have gone through a background check, nor the people he hired in the wake of this, because how are we going to turn a background check around that fast? And to be clear, to be very clear, the president has the ability to classify and declassify anything he wants, and therefore he also has the authority to access, basically, or allow access into that information by anybody that he says. If we have a top secret document that the president decides to declassify and put it out there for the world to see, or for specific individuals to see, that is 100% within his right, as it is written in law. I did an entire video on that entitled "Can the President Declassify Anything That He Wants?" where I go through the nuts and bolts of how that actually works. You can search for that on my YouTube channel. So, what is unknown is simply this. As I mentioned before, is Elon Musk on the exemption list, or does he have an existing clearance at this level? Contracts with SpaceX do not count, for the record, as that is a corporate validation, not an individual one. And so that he can't say, well, we have SpaceX here, and SpaceX has government contracts, therefore I'm vetted. That's not how that works. Now, the other point is, are the people he's bringing in, as I mentioned, do they have previous clearances, or are they getting an exemption? Meaning we have unvetted people looking at our taxpayer, our citizen data, and that's something to understand. Now, Musk himself, for the record, seems to not be a fan of even letting people know who they are, the people that he hired. This is actually another concern of mine. So on Twitter, a user who goes by @RayInsideOut posted a, quote, list of techies on the ground helping Musk gaining and using access to the U.S. Treasury payment system. And so this person then lists 5 names or so, with a note underneath the names, wondering if the FBI agents that were just recently fired, would have doxed them if they were still there, or something along those lines. And so Elon Musk himself replied to that tweet, and I quote, "You have committed a crime," end quote. He's implying essentially that exposing their names is a crime. And so remember, the doxing comment was a speculation, but what the person actually did was list out the names that are helping Elon Musk, and Elon Musk is saying that's a crime. Now, here's the thing. Anybody working on a public system should be known basically as to the public, because government has transparency laws that are there to prevent fraud. And so this then opens up the question, why do they want access to the payment system themselves? Is it purely to review expenditures so they can actually, fix that or alleviate that? Or do they now have the ability to start paying themselves or other people directly? I don't know. And I'm not accusing them of anything. And here's the thing. Despite the name, DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency, is not actually a federal executive department. In order to become one, it requires an act of Congress. It has to be approved by Congress. So, according to the executive order that created DOGE, because I do my homework, First things first, let's quote it, because the purpose of this is, and I quote the executive order on this, this executive order establishes the Department of Government Efficiency to implement the president's DOGE agenda by modernizing federal technology and software to maximize governmental efficiency and productivity, end quote. So then, do they need access to review this technology to make it more efficient? And if that essentially is only what they're there to do, then where is the oversight as these outside people have access to the system to essentially assure that nothing is copied out illegally, no transactions occur that shouldn't, et cetera, et cetera. Now, the government's cybersecurity framework is essentially the umbrella that is NIST 853. Those rules state that contractors need to be escorted and monitored. Is that happening? Can we confirm that that actually has happened under this? Section 2 of the executive order also seems a bit contradictory. It starts, and I quote, Section 3, DOGE structure, subsection A, reorganization and renaming of the United States Digital Service. The United States Digital Service is hereby publicly renamed as the United States DOGE Service, USDS, and shall be established in the executive office of the president. But then, end quote, but then subsection B of that same paragraph or same section reads, quote, this is further established within USDS in accordance with Section 3161 of Title V, United States Code, a temporary organization known as the U.S. DOGE Service Temporary Organization. The U.S. DOGE Service Temporary Organization shall be headed by the USDS Administrator and shall be designated to advancing the President's 18-month DOGE agenda. So, end quote. Musk and his people are working temporarily, or Musk, being the administrator, is now able to hire temporary workers, and therefore here we are. There's also no mention of vetting in the executive order of the quote-unquote at least 4 employees that they are to hire, and they've hired at least 5 per the disclosures that we've seen. So my biggest issue here is transparency. Honest governments require transparency to check against malfeasance. I'm not saying that a crime has been committed here. I don't know if one has. But the risk vastly increases when we have no oversight of what is happening. And on top of this, granting access to a database that has literally everybody's social security number in it and a whole bunch of sensitive information should require a lot of hoop jumping. It should have background checks. There should be observers. All of this is a huge issue. Organizations have data classification policies for a reason, so that they know what information is sensitive to what level and then restrict access based on the need while implementing proper controls such as monitoring, encryption, logging, reviews, general oversight, and more. And so these are things that you can set up in databases. They can get administrative access for a complete overview of, let's say, critical systems such as payroll, with basically while still excluding things like social security numbers, as opposed to having carte blanche. When we audit, for example, a firewall, an enterprise firewall, we don't necessarily need access as an administrator to make changes. We just need read-only access to review what the firewall is. So we can't tamper with the system, but we can review it and we can make suggestions and advisements. So what is going on here is he's just been given global administrator access, if you will, and can do whatever he wants, as his people. Is there any kind of oversight here? And until we have an understanding of all of this, I think that people are going to continue to think this is potentially a criminal move. And so, is this a data breach? I don't know. And I don't think we really do know. But on the surface, given all the information that we are seeing in the news, it is be very easy for somebody to construe that it is. And quite frankly, until we understand exactly what is going on with proper government transparency and oversight, we're not really going to know. And that's the honest truth, whatever it is. And that's not political. If we were in an alternate timeline and it was a President Harris, presidency that made this same move with her own people, I'd be making the same segment. I mean, that's really what it is. And so in that vein, I kindly ask the president and Mr. Musk to be as transparent as possible here. Not that they're probably going to hear or see this. And please like, share, follow me here on Facebook and Twitter at NickAESP. And please feel free to subscribe to me at YouTube as well. And as always, stay safe, stay online, and please attempt to stay private. Thanks, everybody.